in our first international discussion part in the Women in the Frontline of Medical Sciences workshop. Before starting the discussion, I would raise the audience's attention. If there are any questions in connection with the presentation, feel free to share in the chat box. First, I would like to introduce our presenter, Magdalena Kuras. Magdalena Kuras is from the University of Lund, Sweden. She's a PhD student in the Lund University under the supervision of George Marco Varga, and she's working on the Cancer Moonshot program. Besides that, she's a freestyle swimmer, and she represented Sweden in the 2007 World Aquatics Championships and the 2008 European Aquatic Championships. So thank you, Magda, that you accept our invitation. And now I would give the word to Noemi, who will introduce our next presenter, Zsófi.
Thank you so much and welcome everyone. We are very excited from this section. And firstly, Leticia will introduce Magdalena as she mentioned, and after that I will introduce Zsófia. And please be free to ask something and ask both of them. So welcome everyone, and we could start.
I finished the introduction, so you can start the introduction of
Okay, thank you so much. So Zsófia Szojka is completed her bachelor's degree in medical laboratory analysis, the master's degree in molecular biology at the Faculty of General Medicine at the University of Debrecen, Hungary, to fulfill her desire for research. The base of her research is HIV-1 and HIV-2 infection. Her outstanding scientific activity is exemplified by numerous posters, scientific lectures, and articles. During her studies, she was a member of the talent development program DETEC at the University of Debrecen, Hungary. And as a PhD student, she had an opportunity to join a research group at the Lund University, Sweden. During her PhD studies, she spent a total 1 year at the Division of Medical Microbiology at the Department of Laboratory Medicine at the Lund University. This period of her studies was so pivotal of her career. So she's currently pursuing her postdoctoral fellowship in Sweden.
Thank you very much, Noemi. So we are in this table discussion, and I would have a question to Magda. First of all, congratulations to your baby, as you know, in January. Our first question that how do you feel yourself as a mom, and how could you manage now the scientific work beside that?
Yeah, being a mother it's like everyone says, it's the best thing ever. And all this love that people say that, oh, you have never felt this love, everything is true. I was like, oh, is it really true that you can love someone so much? But yeah, you can. I mean, it's wonderful being a mom. And if you go to the work part, I mean, we have quite good with maternity leave in Sweden, so I can be at home for 1 year. But now, since because of the COVID situation and everything, so I'm still working out some hours every week from home, because there is not so much you can do, and I feel really passionate about the science and everything. So, and I'm lucky to have both my mother-in-law and my mother, so they're helping me out. So, for instance, now he's together with his father and my mother-in-law, so they can help me out with the baby if I have meetings or if I have something special to prepare. So that helps me a lot. So I think it's working out very well. The sleep is also getting better. I mean, it's not like 3-4 hours per night anymore. Now I'm sleeping okay because he's 3 months. So everything is getting better.
That's nice. That looks great. Okay, and we have another question to Zsófi.
Yeah, Zsófi, please, could you tell something that how did you get this opportunity? How is it related to your current position in Lund, Sweden?
Yeah, thank you so much for the question. So as a first year PhD student, I really wanted to go abroad. So to be honest, I emailed many universities, and in some places I have been rejected, and the other places I didn't even receive any answer. And in the end, I read an article which kind of gave the base of my PhD, and it came from that group where I'm working right now. So it's really an honor to join a group as a second year PhD student, where actually all the base of your PhD came from. So I emailed first a Hungarian professor emerita, Eva Maria Fenyő, in English, because I was really worried that if I email her in Hungarian, maybe she will reject me. But she forwarded my email to my current supervisor, Maria Jansson, and Patrick Manstrand. And I applied for a campus scholarship. And after I won it, with their help, I could spend half year as a second. And when I reapplied, I could spend another half year as a third year PhD student here in Lund. And after I finished my PhD, actually 1 month after that, I could start my postdoctoral position here. It's worth to mention that I'm really grateful that I can work with amazingly fantastic supervisor, Maria Jansson. I really believe that she's a perfect example of being a woman in research. She's insanely smart, and I would definitely say she's kind of an idol for me.
Yes, and there are a lot of PhD students now who are watching this video, and they are interested about the science life. And I would ask both of you that do you have bad or good experience in the scientific life?
Should I start?
You can, of course.
Okay. Yeah. When I did my master in Lund, then before that I was really sure that no, I think I want to leave the academic world and go to the industry. But then I did my master thesis in the group where I am today, and then I just somehow fell in love with academia, and I have never felt that before. So I think it's the people that work there, and also I had a female supervisor, Melinda. She's also Hungarian, and I mean she was the best. I was so happy to work with her. And then so when I had maybe like two months left of my master thesis, then I asked, okay, I would really like to stay and become a PhD student here in your group. So then I continued to work like as this temporary employment, and then in November 2018 I was enrolled in this PhD program in Sweden. So far I've liked it a lot. It feels like the group that I'm in, where there are a lot of researchers and you have a lot of opportunities. I mean, it's not like we have a lot of samples, like we work with you in Szeged with the biobanking and everything. So it's really you that sets the limit. I mean, it's not like we don't have samples enough or not good instruments enough. I mean, we have everything. So the only thing that determines is how hard you want to work and how far you want to go. And I'm really happy about that, because I know that not everyone is as fortunate and have it in that way. So I really, really like it.
And did you have bad experience or something you had not expected?
Actually, no, not so much. I mean, so far everything has been really nice. And I think I'm lucky also because we have a lot of seniors working in the lab. So if you encounter problems, I mean, like with sample preparation, you always have problems. But then everyone is so keen on helping each other. So then we always manage to somehow solve it, even if it takes 2 or 3 months extra or something like that. So all our problems that we have encountered so far, we have managed to solve them. Of course, it sometimes delays the work a few months, but I think that's science. It's better to make sure that the sample prep and everything is okay before you continue. And so I think that's the biggest challenges that we have had. It's with some sample preparations, but we have really solved them in a nice way.
That's good. That's good. Thank you very much. And Zsófi, did you have any bad or good experiences during your scientific work?
I would say I'm lucky that I can compare Hungarian and the Swedish system. The biggest advantage of Sweden is we are working not just in a team, but in a really multicultural team. And in this case, we forced to speak English, which is not really common in my home country when we don't really have like foreigner students like in some labs. So really you are forced to speak English. And I know perfectly that many Hungarian students, even though they can speak English, they are quite, I would say like shy to use the language, which is not common here. Like every day, you need to communicate in another language, which is not your mother language. And even though we are in Sweden, where is actually not the national language is English, I didn't experience anything like it's gonna cause a problem for me that I don't speak Swedish, because my colleagues, they speak English with me when we have a meeting and I'm the only Hungarian or the only foreigner there. They directly change to English, which is really, really respectful. And it's very common here in Sweden. Based on that, we have like I would say like a very high percentage of foreigner postdocs and even PhD students as well. This is also a good advantage that based on that we have like different backgrounds and we came from different countries. We have different experiences and different ways of solve like problems. It can come like some countries, they don't have a great financial background. So I would say like this kind of people, they find the easiest and the cheapest way to solve it, which will really sound stupid, but sometimes in research based on the financial problems, it can be useful. The only disadvantage is like you get homesick very quickly. It happened with me back in my PhD years as well when I spent here. But um, based on the technology, based on that we have like available internet and like through social media, it's quite easy to communicate with my family, but it will not solve the problem that they are physically not here with me. So this is the biggest disadvantage of being abroad and spending so much time abroad.
I really agree with you this with the multicultural. I think it's really nice. We also have people from all over the world. And that you say with financial, I mean, one of my supervisors is also from Cuba, for instance, and they didn't have maybe all the good instruments and everything. So they are really good at the chemistry in the tube and knows everything that happens, and also have this really more simple ways of solving the problems. So I think it's really, really cool to learn from them. And then at the same time, we have people coming from Asia, like South Korea and everything, or Tokyo, and they have completely different views and work ethics. I mean, it's really, really nice. I think the mixture, and yeah, I think that's one of the nicest things.
Thank you so much. It's amazing. So hopefully we could do this in Hungary also. I would like to ask both of them that are you still in touch with your ex-colleagues, ex-students of your original university or workplace?
Yeah, to some extent. I mean, I started as a biomedical bachelor and a biomedical master. So many of my friends, they continued within the university as PhD students. I think approximately half of them. So actually, one of them I met at this prophylactic baby before a pregnancy course. So then I met one of my friends there, and so they were also having a baby. So that was kind of fun. And then some of them are in the industry. So yeah, I think maybe, yeah, the few friends or the friends that I hang out with mostly during my master, those ones I keep in touch with. But many of them are doing their PhD or just finished their PhD.
For me, of course I do. I still keep in touch with them. And one of the best example, I kind of left a student. She wasn't my student back in Hungary, but I was working with her. And during the past few months, I was helping to review her thesis, help her to prepare her thesis defense, the presentation for her thesis defense. So it's we are quite lucky in the 21st century, because I really don't think that if we would do it back then, like in the 90s or in the 80s, we would have this chance that we just hang up or take our phone and we call them and we can connect them, even though we are in the other side of the world. So I'm 100% sure that like professors who's presenting in this conference, and they kind of took this big step, and maybe you, Magdalena, later on you want to do postdoc in another country. We are very lucky, but for sure that if we do it like 30 years ago, it could be really problematic. One of the professor here where I'm working, he mentioned that he moved to United States during his PhD, and he got a meters long fax message from his supervisor. And the very beginning was kind, and then it ended like, why you don't answer? So it's we are very lucky, I would say. And it's not just generally about women, it's I would talk about like it's genderless like opportunity for everyone.
You got the point, because my next question would be for you, both of you, that but do you think that this is that easier to be nowadays a researcher or not, like in 30 years ago?
I think it's in both ways, because at the same time the competition is much higher now. I mean, there are many more researchers now than it was before. I mean, I think it's the same before. I mean, when our parents were maybe younger, then it was enough to just have a degree from university and you were almost ensured a job, but you're not anymore. Now you really have to compete. So it's not enough just to be really good at what you're doing. You have to be something extra and do a lot of extra activities and be involved in different things. So in that sense, it's of course harder. But as Sofia is saying, I mean, of course, it's much better with the digital world, and you can reach out to researchers across the world, and you can travel much easier. I mean, with plane, I mean, with everything. So I think it's in both ways. But we're of course fortunate to be researchers now compared to a lot of years ago.
I would only add some like only one sentence to Magdalena's point, because it's really great that besides the competition, also the collaborations are much easier nowadays. Why it was almost like we could only collaborate like a few years ago with other departments in the same universities. Nowadays we can do it worldwide. We can just send an email, ask for the special, let's say, cell type, what they made in the United States, and after you changing a few emails, we can actually get the cells. So it's even though there is a very huge competition, there is a very huge chance to get new collaborations as well.
A much bigger opportunity now.
Exactly.
Yeah, like we have all of these collaborations, for instance, with Hungary with samples, and then we collaborate with the bioinformaticians in New York, and so it's really nice. And we have this, Letizia knows, every second week we have meetings, and it works really nice. You can do this, write papers with 40 authors across the world. I mean, that wouldn't be possible without like Google Drive or something other than where you can share your work. So I think that's really nice.
Yeah, and this is why it's also great that there are some labs there, as you mentioned, that they are specialized for bioinformatics. So you need to be specialized, and this is also the hard part, what you mentioned before. You need to be expert of one field, but probably like 20 years ago, you start everything from sample preparation until analysis of the data, and everything. And there were like only few names of the paper, why, as you mentioned, nowadays there are like 30, 40 names. So it's even harder, but also better, because for sure the bioinformatics, they will do their job as like perfect as they can. Why for us maybe it's not the same.
No, it's impossible to be an expert in sample prep and also in building softwares and programming, and then knowing all the biological parts, I mean, no one knows all of these things. So I agree with you that it's better to be like specialized and be really, really good in what you're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much. We have a question from the audience that could you tell us the main difference between the Hungarian and the Swedish education system? For example, the colleges, universities, or the main part of the system?
I think it's tougher in Hungary. I mean, that's my feeling is that, of course, you know it better than me, Sofia, but I think we have more that you can more own your own responsibility. I mean, most of our lectures, maybe the first year, it's a little more mandatory, but except for that, I mean, our lectures are almost never mandatory, only the labs, and you have to take own responsibility for your work and to study for the exams and everything. And we don't have so many lectures. I mean, we don't go to school from like 8 to 5. Maybe you have 1 or 2 lectures a day, or sometimes you have 2 or 3 days off and you are supposed to study on your own. So I guess that's maybe a difference, or my feeling was when I was in Hungary that it was not more tough.
And Zsófia?
Yeah, beside it, I would like to only add one thing. It's very common for Hungarian students, they are shy to ask. Why Swedish students or students in Sweden, they are not shy to ask at all. When they have a question during the lecture, or when they have a question during the seminars, they ask. Why it's more like a cultural difference. Hungarian students, they are worried that maybe they don't ask the correct question, or it's not the question what it should be asked. So this is one big difference. But I know there is one huge, I would say not problem, but disadvantage for PhD here. Like while in Hungary, yeah, most of the students, they can apply for PhD. Here in Sweden, you really need, or the supervisors, they need to employ the students. Thus, it's really costly. So that's why it's really hard for a small lab or a small department to take as many PhD students here in Sweden, while in Hungary it's not a problem. Although the Hungarian scholarship for PhD students is not the highest, just to mention, compared to what Swedish PhD students they get. I really think this is one of the biggest disadvantage here.
Mm. I agree with you, and at the same time, I think it's both, because if we come back to this with women in science, here I guess that it's much harder to get a PhD because it's a real employment and you're employed by the state and you have a lot of rights. I mean, I have 31 vacation days a year. That's more than 6 weeks, and I have paid maternity leave and everything. So I think it's both, because to be able as a woman, since I'm turning 33, so many of the Swedish women, they get their children during their PhD, because that's like the age. Maybe you do a PhD between 25 and 35, somewhere in between. And I think it wouldn't be possible if we wouldn't have this real employment. So although it's much more difficult to get it, if you do, then you feel really secure. I mean, you have a nice employment, and now I can be at home for 1 year with my child and still have some money every month to be like the best mom that I can be. And so I think it's both, but at the same, yeah, like you say. But for women, I think actually it could be a benefit, especially if you're older, because here it's also common that after maybe you finish high school, maybe you take 1 or 2 years off before you go to the university, and then you get older and older. So I think many women would like to have the children during their PhD, and you really have a good opportunity. And your employment is just prolonged. So if I'm home for 1 year, my employment is automatically prolonged for one year. So I think that's nice.
Yeah, I agree. Like I know many examples here also from the lab, from previous PhD students. As my supervisor, she mentioned almost all her PhD students, they had their babies. So she has like multiple like scientific grandkids.
Mm.
But it's not common in Hungary. Like as you said, Magda, it's really uncommon in Hungary that a woman doing their PhD, I would say, take the chance. It's more common when they see the end of the tube, they kind of get pregnant and they take that risk. But how it's quite problematic at home that we are not employed, or it's going to be financially really tough situation if you don't have a strong financial background owning partner. So it's a really good and also really bad at the same time. So it has like disadvantages and advantages, as you mentioned.
Yeah, but I think for women it's better because I think it gets more equal somehow, because you don't have to rely. I don't have to rely on my husband because I can have my own money. I would be able to raise the child on my own if I wanted to, and it would work out anyway. But how is it in Hungary? Is it, do you have to pay to go to the university?
No, it's free. It's free.
Yeah.
It's similar to the Swedish system. It's
Okay.
really good, the Swedish system as well. And also here, I mean, like in this case, if you have a great grades from the high school, and it's very common that most of the students, they can get into the system where they want. Not for everyone, obviously. If the high school scores weren't very high, and you have the parental support or student loan, for example, yes, you can get into universities. But otherwise, most of the students, they study for free. Only one thing what I would like to highlight, and it's really great in Sweden, that not just mothers, also fresh fathers, they can go to paternal break. And it's like 3 months, while in Hungary, as far as I know, it's only 3 weeks, which is really not so much, because I'm 110% sure you need to stay with your baby. And even though, like, not just mothers, also fathers need to stay with them for their partner.
Yes, here you can divide the parental leave however you want, but the dads, they have to take out at least 3 months.
Yeah.
And it's getting more and more all the time. So I guess in a few years it will probably be split in half.
Yes, and we have another question from the audience. That it's to both of you. That do you think it is worse going abroad immediately after high school, or does someone who only went abroad during their PhD studies have the same opportunities? So,
Do you want to start?
So what do you think that it is worse to go abroad after your studies or during the PhD? What is your aspect?
In my opinion, based on that there is a very huge competition for foreigners, like universities, it's much better if you go during your master, when you have like experiments already in the lab. Maybe as a bachelor, you really need to be very lucky. Even as a PhD student, when you go abroad, you really need to be very lucky, and you would say like need to try multiple times to get into a foreigner university. But without any experience, I mean like some people, they are like rock stars. They do like research during their high school studies, but it's not that common. So I would say like maybe it's easier when you already have your bachelor and you have like experience already. Like in Sweden, at least you have the few weeks summer like study, so they you can get a recommendation letter, which is really helpful. But after high school, without recommendation letter, without an experience, it's really tough.
Yeah, I agree. I think you can start during the master, during the bachelor, if you have done these summer projects. And I think they are very nice. Do you have something like that in Hungary, that you can do summer projects? Yeah. I think, yeah. So I would also say during the masters, you have some experience in the lab. And here in Sweden, at least, we're very happy to have master students because they are for free. So they come and they're very happy to do experiments, and they can help like a PhD student to do some method development. And we always have master students in the lab, and it's really nice, and they're very helpful. And sometimes we have bachelor, but we have had 1 or 2 of these rock star students from the bachelor, for instance, and they have been really good. But mostly it's master students, and then of course PhD and postdoc. I guess it's the easiest to find a scholarship.
I would like to add only one. Like in Hungary, you can start to kind of visit and join a research lab during your bachelor, and as many free time you have, you can go like after the lectures. So it's not the same like in Sweden, except the summer this research uh, period. But after every like lectures, when you have like 2-3 hours, you can just join the lab and you can do some experience. So it's a little bit advantage in the Hungarian system, but there are also disadvantage that maybe you don't see the whole procedure if it starts like in the morning, when you can only join like at 2 p.m. for example, especially as a bachelor student, when you don't have the whole picture, the whole entire picture in your head.
But I think it's nice that you can already have the opportunity to be more in the lab from the start. I think that it's always good, even if you just observe. I think it's very nice.
And Zsófi and Magda, how could we imagine your days in Sweden? How could we imagine that? How spend your days in Sweden as a researcher? For example, for Zsófi as a foreign newly postdoctoral fellowship, and for you.
I think it's very different between the two of us. You can start.
You want to start, Magda?
You can go.
For me, it's like, I would say like my day is Magda's pre-baby's day, I would say. So I get up and I run to the lab, except if I don't have any manual, because then I can work from home for analyze different data. And I try to finish as much as I can, but it's really hard to not like work too much, which is not really common and not common. Like they don't really like supervisors that you are sitting 12 hours. And you are just working here in Sweden, because they know it's not good for your health. So I really try to stand up and take for a walk, which is very common in Sweden, I would say. Like Swedish people and even foreigners, they are very sporty here. So but it's quite in my case it's quite boring, mostly research. So and just some activities. So I would say like it's a pre-baby period of Magda right now for me.
Yeah, I think your life is very similar to a student life. I mean, when you're still in the master or bachelor in the university, I think it's very similar for the foreign PhD students, because we also have in the lab from Brazil too, and they live a really nice student life. And I think it's nice. Now my days are completely different, because I live in a house, so I also have like a garden and a home to take care of, and now I have a 3-month baby, and then also since I did the swimming, so 2-3 times per week, I usually started swimming at 6 in the morning before the baby, and then I finished around 8, and then I drove straight from the swimming pool to the lab, and then we have kind of sometimes long days. I mean, between 9 and 10 hours, but then we try not to work more than that, and then back home and do all the cooking and cleaning, and yeah, so it's a little more to take care of, not so much of this student life anymore. A lot of responsibilities and a lot of appointments. I mean, you have to be on time to practice and all of these things, but I mean, I have really liked it and enjoyed it. And now with the baby, I mean, he will start preschool maybe when he's a little more than a few hours, so I think I will go back on 50% the first 6 months, so that I can be with him. So then I will so then of course it will be like a normal life with a baby and work.
So as I know, Magda, you still do the swimming. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Now it's I do. So I go to the gym in the morning, and then he can come with me, and then in the afternoon I leave him with my mother or my mother-in-law, and then I do the swimming session, because it's 2 hours. So I leave him 3 hours per day, but I breastfeed him, and then I leave the milk because all of these pumps and all of these good equipments you have nowadays. So I always leave a bottle of milk for his grandmothers, and then they can feed him, and then I come home in the evening. So I still manage to do the swimming. I actually had a competition in the morning, so I'm starting to get back a little into shape. So I think it's nice. I hope in the fall that I can do maybe a European or another world championship, and I think that will finish my career, my elite career. Yeah.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah.
Hopefully, yes.
Yes, and there is another question from the audience. Maybe it's for more Zsófi. Could you mention some differences of raising a child like a researcher in Sweden in a comparison with Hungary? So if you are a researcher, there are differences raising a child in Sweden than in Hungary. So maybe it's easier, or do you have more?
I'm childless, so I can only. So it's really going to be a tough question for me, but I could actually, I could actually give you a few examples from my colleagues. It's one of my colleagues. She has like 2 babies, and she can manage to go home at time, take them from the preschool, do everything, and because like our mentors or supervisors, they're really understanding the situation when you have a child. I'm not sure like every group leader in Hungary would understand the situation. They would maybe mention that it's your choice to have a child, so it's gonna be like tough. But here it doesn't really matter. You are a father or a mother. If there is an emergency with your child, they accept it. So it's not just from the mother's side; it's also from the father's side. Because sometimes I would say like for medical checkup, maybe they need both parents. Maybe your partner gets sick, so you need to take care of the child as a father. So they understand it perfectly. Another good would say like cultural difference between Hungary and Sweden, that in Sweden the Swedish men, they take as many responsibilities as a woman in the family, taking care of the child, and it's not common, or not yet that common in Hungary. We still have that very old stereotypes of being a mother, being a stay-at-home mother, and it's gonna be problematic when you really want to focus on your career and want to be a great mother as well.
Yes, and I think yes, we have come a long way in Sweden, but we also still have some. I mean, it can always be better because, for instance, it would still be difficult for me now if I have a small child, and even if I start to work, but to go on a conference abroad. I mean, maybe I cannot leave my child. Maybe he's 1.5 years old, and maybe I'm still breastfeeding him, and maybe it's not suitable for him to be without his mother for a week or something. But then who will pay to bring the child? And also you need another person because you cannot be on a conference with a 1-year-old. So you would need to bring either your partner or maybe a grandmother or someone. So I still think that the whole scientific community, that's where we can really improve. Because if not, maybe you will have like 6-7 years if you have 1, 2, 3 children, where you have a very hard time participating in these scientific conferences because you cannot travel and you cannot leave your small children. The bigger ones, of course, you can leave, but the smaller ones, it's difficult. And I think this, to become like a full professor and to get a lot of funding, I mean, it has a lot to do with collaborations. I mean, I have really, because now I've been a little involved in some of these applications, and you can see that what you're always talking about, it's, we have collaborations here and collaborations there, and that's what makes this study so strong. And I think if you don't travel, now it's different because it's COVID, so maybe it's easier because you have online conferences, but to be there in person, it's still challenging. So I really hope we're going to this, that it would be possible to bring like a child and an extra person with you, so that you will be able, of course you cannot travel all the time, but maybe 1 or 2 conferences per year. I think it should be okay to somehow finance it. I don't know how, but I think it would be very interesting to see, because it must be it's the same all over the world. I think you should not be able to give up so many things of your career, because you have fought as hard as all, like the men. I mean, so you should not have to give it up just because you become a mother.
In my opinion, I would like to just add only one to Magda's sentence, that during this time, this pandemic, it's really highlighted that we can have conference, like worldwide conferences online. It has the advantage that kind of we can like have our join the conference from home, and we don't need to leave our baby, or you don't need to leave your baby at home, but it also lose that magic when you can really interact with other researchers. So this is really a good advantage of it, but built on the future collaborations, what Magda mentioned, this is going to be problematic.
Yes, and I think to maintain connections and maintain collaborations, it's enough with online. I mean, you don't have to travel to someone that you already know, but I think to establish new collaborations and new connections, then I think this personal thing is very, very important. And also, especially we are young, so maybe for us it's easier to do all of these online things. But if you want to have a collaboration with someone, I don't know, older people, maybe it's more difficult for them to adapt, because they're so used to just travel and meet. And so I think that, yeah, I agree with you.
Thank you so much. We have many questions from the audience, so it's very nice. We have a question from the audience to Zsófi, that how difficult to apply for a postdoc position in Sweden as a Hungarian person.
I would say I was lucky, based on that I was here, and I was independent, so I looked for the groups by myself, and I found this group, and they accepted me, which is like, I'm very lucky and grateful, and, you know. For the postdoctoral fellowship, there are many different ways here in Sweden. It can be like after you finished, as far as I remember, 3 years after you finished your PhD studies, you can apply for postdoctoral fellowship. And it's worth to mention that here they can give you up to 24 months, and it's tax-free. So it's kind of support for the research scientific area. And it's not just for medicine, it's like from engineering until like other research areas. The other way is to get employed or apply for different postdoc scholar fellowship from the Swedish Research Society, and even like for Marie Curie. In the case of Marie Curie, you know, it's like worldwide, so anyone can apply. So it's going to be like a little bit tough. But for the Swedish Research Association, I'm really not sure about the Swedish name. Maybe Magda knows it.
Swedish Research Council.
Yeah, that one.
It's Vetenskapsrådet, right? Yeah, Swedish Research Council. Yeah.
Yeah, that one. So that actually you can apply when, let's say, you want a 1-year scholarship here. So during that time, you will have a higher chance to apply for it. It's for everyone. There is a competition, obviously, and it's open for every EU students, so, or even like foreigner students. There are also other like stipendiums based on your home country worldwide, and it can also give chances. But then the biggest question is, what will happen after that 1 year or 2 years of your postdoctoral fellowship? That is the biggest question, not to get into the system, because then you need to apply, and maybe later on, after your second postdoc, they need to take you as an employee. And that is going to be more tough, especially when you are working in a small group.
Yeah, we have another question that maybe it's for you, Zsófia, that why did you choose Sweden? But I think you already mentioned that. And another question that would you like to return to Hungary later on?
So as I said, the basic of my research is from that research group where I came from. Pardon, what I read that article. So and it's like fantastic for me. Maybe later on, but right now I really see here I have a great opportunity. I work in a really great like fantastic like multicultural team. I can learn from all of the professors, PIs here, and even like my colleagues. And it's worth to mention, it doesn't matter like I'm studying from an assistant or learning from a professor. We are on the same level. Like nobody thinks that they are better than the other one. This is really unique here, I would say, because if I don't know something and I'm a professor, I just say it, and it's not a shame to say it when you are not an expert of something. But when I'm as a postdoc, no, let's say that method better, and the PI just agree and tell me to read more about it. So right now, for a few years, I would definitely would like to stay here because it's a really great culture. It's a little bit windy weather, but except that, it's I would say like for me, Sweden is a dreamland.
Yeah, I think this with the hierarchy is nice. I mean, the professor in our lab, he would never like interfere and say that, no, you should do the sample prep in this way, because of course he knows that we know it much better than he does, because we have done it, we do it every day, and we have done it for years. And I think it's very nice that even as a student and you're at the bottom of the chain, you can still speak up and say what's on your mind. And if you have a better idea, people are listening. I think it's nice.
Yeah.
I think I have to go because I have the baby swimming. I have baby swimming today. But is there any last questions or something that you would like to ask before I run?
Maybe one not from the audience, just from us. That I'm thinking about that. For example, if your baby will be bigger a little bit after maybe some years, that would you like to move to another country, or would you like to try yourself as a researcher in another country outside of Sweden?
Yeah, I've always talked with my husband about it, that I love Australia, but it's so far away.
Yes.
Just say that, okay, maybe in a lot of years, maybe if our parents are not here anymore and things, maybe then we could think of doing something abroad. But that would be in a lot of years, because now I have like my family here, and I know for the children, for small children, it's better to stay in one place and not move around. But in the future, when we get older, then for sure I would like, and I think Australia would be my first choice.
Yeah, thank you so much. It sounds good, and cross fingers for you, your baby, your family, and
thank you, and thank you so much for inviting me. It has been, yeah, it's an honor. I'm very, very happy that you wanted to listen to what I have to say, and yeah.
We are so happy that you can join.
Thank you. Thank you. I will go swim with. Yeah, I will go swim with my baby.
So bye, Magda.
Bye.
Have a nice day. Bye bye.
But we have a question, as I know, to Zsófi.
Okay.
That what is a life look like in Sweden for a Hungarian?
One of the biggest, I would say, problem. Like I'm the only Hungarian in the department. Where Magda she's working, she mentioned that there are so many Hungarians. So for me, it's a very huge problem that I cannot communicate with my own language, except when the Professor Emerita, Professor Fenyő, she's here. So we can have our chit chat, and of course, when I'm talking with my family, with my great friends at home, I can like use my mama's language. The other biggest disadvantage is like you really need to travel to get like good ingredients for like I don't know goulash, for example. It's a big problem. Yeah, or you take tons of paprika with you, because they don't really have, or they don't really actually sell good things. But The biggest is, I mean, there is a very huge like Hungarian like commune here in Malmö and also in Göteborg and also in Stockholm. But in my not my in my department, in the floor, when I'm working, I'm the only one. So it's, I would say, like sometimes I feel like I'm lonely Hungarian there. But maybe if I would go like to house like just further, I would find like thousands of Hungarians working there. So yeah, this is one of the biggest. But my based on that, the previous group leader, she was Hungarian. They really, I would say, have a positive experience with Hungarian people. And the only big problem, which is very common for Hungarians abroad, that you want to work and you want to prove that you really have the right to stay here. So it's like, and it's not good because it's not good for your physical, not good for your mental health, that you really want to prove that you got this chance and you need to prove that you are the best, that you need to work like 10, 12 hours. And to be honest, for right reason, Swedish mentors, they don't really like it because they know it will have a negative effect on your job later on.
That's what I.
Sorry, just one sentence for your aspect, that this is really interesting topic, because I think this is the same situation in the USA. So if you are working 10 or 12 hours, it's like you are king. And so it's really important, I think, in abroad and in other countries. Thank you.
And thank you so much again. And I have a question that, do you know, as you mentioned that you can find many Hungarian people in Sweden, that do you know that is there any Hungarian group where you can join to hang out or just relax or just walking in a mountain or somewhere or do something after the work?
Actually, there are like, because of the COVID situations and because of the restrictions in Hungary, pardon, in Sweden, it's gonna be problematic nowadays. But there are like many, like through Facebook, for example. I'm not even sure I can say it. So there are like many groups like on social media where you can join. Also in Interpol, as I remember, this website, there are like many Hungarian groups, but due to COVID, it's a little bit difficult nowadays. Yeah. But maybe it's easier when you are an Erasmus student here and you are living in a student house.
Thank you very much. I have just maybe last question because we are out of time. So have you ever experienced that maybe, so it's the career of a male researcher is easier than the career of a female researcher in Sweden?
In Sweden, not. For sure not. In Sweden, is one of the, and it's really generally true for other Scandinavian countries as well, that gender equality exists here. They really judge you based on the quality of your job. They really judge you based on the results, what you can prove. It doesn't matter what is your nationality, what is your mother language, what is your skin color, or what is your gender. And this is very common in other Scandinavian countries. And Sweden is, as far as I remember, in 2020, it was the #1 country for gender equality, generally in not just in research, but also in other fields as well. So here, I don't feel the difference. I don't feel that they would judge me based on that I'm a woman. So.
And did you feel this in Hungary, maybe?
For me, not. I would say like I was quite independent. I had great they give me the wings to just to fly away. So I was quite independent in Hungary too. But I'm sure like maybe in other cases, especially when you have a child, it could be quite difficult in Hungary. So maybe in the industry, it's gonna be like really difficult. Not in the academia, because as far as I saw, like in academia, they are really really acceptable when you have like child emergency. Or I just had like a good experience, I'm not sure.
Thank you very much. Do we have any questions, Noemi?
Yeah, maybe the last one, if you let me that ask that. Zsófi, what's your main plan for the future, for example, as a Hungarian researcher, young researcher in Sweden? What's your main goal, main plan for the future?
I would definitely would like to stay here, learn as much as I can, and maybe later on, but not in the coming like near future, like start my own group, because I know that many foreigners here, they have their own groups, yeah, and they are like a woman, many like women foreigners, they have their own like research groups here. So yeah, hopefully not in the coming future, but hopefully soon.
Thank you very much. We arrived to the end of the international table discussion. So many thanks for Magda and Zsófi for coming to our workshop and sharing their experiences about their research work. And thanks to the audience for the questions. So we are moving on, and our next presenter will be Professor Dr. Müller Veronika, and she will talk about the COVID-19 pandemic